that kind of thing. I would like to be remembered as a good actor.
Past the low post, all right? Great. You come off your man.
You get to shoot people.
A lot more than we realized at the time.
They're missiles! We don't have time to fuck around!
Yes, I am! I think you're having a nervous break.
The unspoken truth. Gene Hackman's final confession and Hollywood's dark secrets. There was something unsettling about Gene Hackman's death. It wasn't the mourning or the accolades from Hollywood that marked the end of a legendary career. It was the questions left unanswered. 2 weeks before his passing, Hackman broke nearly half a century of silence with a midnight phone call. His voice was hoarse, each word cutting like a blade. "We sold our souls for fame." No one expected those words to be the last confession of a legend, a confession laden with dark secrets about Hollywood, secrets powerful enough to shake the very foundations of the glittering film industry. Hackman's death was officially declared natural, but the timing and circumstances were shrouded in suspicion. Rumors spread that he had been ready to expose everything: hidden deals, criminal networks, and the true faces of those who lurked behind the limelight. At the center of all the speculation lay one thing: the missing tapes. The police never found them. Hidden within the walls of Hackman's modest home in Santa Fe, these recordings were rumored to contain evidence capable of tearing down Hollywood's polished facade. Known as the Lifeline tapes, they were said to capture conversations, threats, and confessions from some of the most powerful figures in the industry. Hackman's cousin, who lived next door, testified that just days before the actor's death, the tapes were still securely stored in a worn leather suitcase, concealed beneath a loose floorboard in Hackman's study. However, when the police arrived, the suitcase had vanished. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry, only the lingering scent of cigar smoke and a half-open window swaying in the desert wind. The disappearance of the tapes has fueled a flurry of speculation, with some insiders alleging a coordinated cover-up. An anonymous source within the industry hinted that the tapes had been smuggled to a journalist known for exposing Hollywood scandals, though no stories have emerged. A retired LAPD detective speaking on the condition of anonymity revealed a chilling detail. Days before Hackman's death, he was approached by men claiming to represent a private interest. Their request was clear: retrieve or destroy the tapes. When the detective refused, a plain envelope appeared on his doorstep, containing only a blank cassette and a single bullet. Such incidents raise urgent questions about the true nature of Hackman's demise. Officially, his death was attributed to natural causes, but the timing and circumstances suggest a darker explanation. If the tapes were merely a myth, why would powerful forces go to such lengths to secure them? And if they were real, what truths did they contain? Truths so dangerous that their mere existence could threaten careers, reputations, and perhaps lives. In a private conversation with a longtime friend, Hackman once admitted, "If you heard what I've heard, you'd never watch another Oscar night." It was a warning, not just about the tapes themselves, but about the sinister machinery beneath Hollywood's polished surface. A machinery that silences, corrupts, and, if necessary, eliminates. As the search for the missing tapes continues, one question remains. Will the truth ever surface, or will it be buried along with Hackman in the desert sands of New Mexico? Blood oaths and dark deals. Hollywood's most sinister secrets are not etched in contracts or illuminated by camera flashes, but are instead whispered behind soundproof doors, buried beneath layers of glitz and legal jargon. For Gene Hackman, a man who rose to stardom without bending to the industry's dark currents, the price of fame was a toll he refused to pay. Hackman's ascent in Hollywood was marked by a growing discomfort with the unseen machinery that propelled careers, or ended them, without mercy. The late-night phone calls began subtly enough. Anonymous voices offering roles that seemed too good to be true, each one laced with conditions that were never put in writing. At first, he dismissed them as the usual politics of Hollywood, But the invitations that followed were harder to ignore. Exclusive parties in Bel Air mansions, where the champagne never stopped flowing and smiles were as sharp as knives. An insider, who spoke under the condition of anonymity, recalled a chilling detail. Hackman was once approached by a well-known producer who offered him a leading role in a blockbuster film, on the condition that Hackman publicly defend the producer amid a brewing scandal. Hackman's refusal was swift and absolute. Days later, he received a script with a handwritten note that read, "We could make this disappear, you know." In 1974, at a mansion overlooking Los Angeles, Hackman attended what he believed to be a typical industry gathering. It was anything but. The party was invitation only, with A-list stars, powerful producers, and a select few young actors desperate for their big break. Behind a velvet curtain, in a room illuminated by crystal chandeliers, Hackman witnessed a gathering that was less of a party and more of a tribunal. At the center stood a circle of men, producers, agents, and studio heads, discussing careers like commodities, orchestrating scandals and salvations with a smile and a glass of scotch. The conversations were laced with euphemisms, but the message was clear. Hollywood was not a place for artists, but for pawns. It was a game where careers were traded like poker chips, and silence was the highest currency. Hackman's disgust was palpable, but so was his fear. He would later tell a confidant that the most dangerous people in Hollywood weren't the ones in front of the camera, but those who never left the shadows. From that night forward, Hackman began to distance himself, not just from the parties and awards, but from the entire system. Scripts that came with private dinner invitations went straight to the trash. Producers who once considered him a safe bet found him impossible to corner. His absence was noted, and so were the whispers that followed, the kind that warned actors of what happened to those who played by their own rules. Hollywood, Hackman discovered, was not just a dream factory. It was a machine built to consume, and those who refused to be devoured were often crushed instead. The Secret Circle. Unmasking Hollywood's darkest secrets. For years, whispers of an inner circle controlling Hollywood's most coveted secrets have haunted the industry. This powerful group of actors, producers, and executives allegedly orchestrated careers and awards behind closed doors. However, what Gene Hackman revealed went far beyond rumor. According to him, this was not merely a circle of influence, but a sinister network bound by fear and silence, a pact among those who knew too much. Hackman's accounts were chilling. In 1975, at a Beverly Hills party attended by industry elites and aspiring actors, Hackman claimed to have overheard a conversation that shattered any illusions of integrity. Two influential figures, a producer and a journalist, were allegedly discussing the winners of the Oscars weeks before ballots were even cast. This was no guesswork. It was preordained, controlled by those pulling the strings from the shadows. But this was only the surface. Hackman spoke of young actors promised stardom in exchange for silence, careers destroyed for daring to expose the truth. Those who refused to comply were met with smear campaigns and blacklisting. Hackman himself turned down roles tied to vague contracts, private meetings, and chilling requests never to be documented. In one particularly shocking revelation, Hackman described a hidden passageway in a Beverly Hills estate leading to a soundproof room lined with tapes, evidence of secret meetings capable of ending careers overnight. These tapes, he claimed, were the real instruments of power in Hollywood. However, the darkest secret of all was one that Hackman could barely bring himself to mention: a child abuse ring involving powerful filmmakers and actors. Hackman had witnessed it firsthand at that 1975 party, where applause and laughter masked unspeakable horrors. His silence was bought with a non-disclosure agreement, a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The Lifeline tapes, evidence of a corrupt empire. By the late 1980s, Hackman had adopted a secretive habit: recording. Every phone call, every threat, and every negotiation was captured on a set of tapes he called the Lifeline tapes. These recordings were not tools of blackmail, but insurance, proof of the corruption festering beneath Hollywood's golden surface. Hidden in a worn leather suitcase beneath a loose floorboard, the tapes were said to contain evidence of rigged Oscar results, threats against young stars, and secret deals that could destroy careers overnight. According to a retired LAPD detective who spoke under the condition of anonymity, unidentified men approached him days before Hackman's death with a clear demand: retrieve or destroy the tapes. When he refused, a plain envelope appeared on his doorstep, containing only a blank cassette and a single bullet, a warning that no one was untouchable. Days later, Hackman was found dead, his death officially attributed to natural causes. But the timing, combined with the disappearance of the tapes, suggested a far darker reality. If the tapes were a myth, why would powerful forces go to such lengths to recover them? And if they were real, what truths did they hold? Truths so dangerous they could bring down Hollywood's most protected elites. In a private conversation, Hackman once warned, "If you heard what I've heard, you'd never watch another Oscar night." As the search for the missing tapes continues, one question lingers: will the truth ever be revealed? Or will it remain buried alongside Gene Hackman, just another dark secret swallowed by the desert sands of New Mexico? A shattered illusion. For decades, Hollywood was seen as a dream factory, a place where ambition transformed into golden statuettes and legends. Gene Hackman was one of its brightest stars, an actor whose presence alone could fill theaters. Yet beneath the glitz and glamour, Hackman saw something far darker. To him, the applause and smiles were hollow, masking an industry built on lies and control. Hackman's discomfort with Hollywood was no secret. Despite his 2 Academy Awards and a series of unforgettable roles, he viewed every handshake with suspicion, every invitation with caution. The turning point came the night he won his first Oscar for The French Connection. As he stepped off the stage, surrounded by smiles and applause, Hackman's unease reached a breaking point. In a gesture that stunned those around him, he tore off his bow tie and threw it into a restroom trash can at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. A colleague later recalled Hackman's parting words that night, his voice low and unsettled: "They own us all." To him, the Academy Awards were not a celebration of art, but a well-orchestrated charade by those who pulled the strings behind the scenes. Offers for roles often came with conditions: private dinners, secretive meetings, and vague promises of awards if certain scenes were played a certain way. Hackman's refusal to play the game earned him enemies, but also preserved his integrity. The Exile in Santa Fe. Hoping to escape Hollywood's grasp, Hackman moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. His home was modest, without high walls or security cameras, just the vast desert and quiet nights. But even there, Hollywood's shadow followed. In the months before his death, strange cars were seen parked outside his home at odd hours, their engines rumbling softly. Anonymous letters appeared in his mailbox, short, chilling messages. "We see you." Hackman lived like an exile, always ready to leave. 2 suitcases remained packed at all times, one with clothes, the other with documents no one else had ever seen. His cousin, a frequent visitor, noticed the change. Hackman, once full of stories and warmth, now spoke in whispers and kept his doors locked even during the day. He joked once, "If I disappear one day, no one will know." But to those who knew him, it was no joke. It was a warning. Security footage from a gas station near Hackman's home allegedly showed a black SUV tailing his car 2 nights before his death. The footage was quickly confiscated and never made public. Neighbors reported seeing unfamiliar faces, men in dark suits asking too many questions and watching too closely. In the end, Hackman's death was ruled as natural causes. But for those who knew the darkness he had tried to escape,
Intensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributory factor.
the official story felt like just another Hollywood script, carefully edited, meticulously staged, and hiding a truth too dangerous to reveal. The Midnight Call, a confession from the shadows. In the stillness of a New Mexico night, Gene Hackman reached for the phone with a trembling hand. It was 2 weeks before his death, and the weight of decades-long secrets pressed down on him like a vice. The voice on the other end belonged to an old friend, the only one left whom Hackman trusted. The conversation was brief but searing, each word carrying the burden of a soul tormented by guilt. "We sold our souls for fame," Hackman confessed, his voice cracked and weary. "I can't die with this weight on me." There were no goodbyes, no explanations, only the hollow click of the receiver and the wind outside, howling through the canyons like a mournful dirge. For those who knew the darkness behind Hollywood's golden facade, that midnight call was not just a confession, it was a warning, a desperate plea for absolution. After his death, investigators discovered a series of notes scattered across his desk, some half-burned, others crumpled as if Hackman had tried to destroy them, but couldn't bring himself to finish the act. Phrases were scribbled in haste, the handwriting erratic, as if he had been racing against time to unburden his soul. One line, repeated over and over, sent chills down the spines of those who read it. The same faces, the same hands, the same silence. Among the papers, there was a list of names: actors, producers, and agents, some disgraced, others still untouchable, their smiles gracing magazine covers, while Hackman's body lay cold and alone. Investigators also found a crumpled envelope containing a cassette tape with no label, its contents erased, but the medium itself a chilling reminder of the missing tapes that had come to haunt Hollywood's elite. A warning from the grave. Hackman's death was ruled as natural causes, neat, clean, and all too convenient. No autopsy was performed at the family's request, and the official report cited a heart attack brought on by age. But for those who had spoken to him in his final days, the explanation felt hollow, like a poorly written script hiding a darker truth. A retired forensic pathologist, reviewing the case files anonymously, remarked, "In cases like this, to rule out foul play without a full autopsy is not just unusual, it's a red flag." The day after Hackman's death, an anonymous email arrived at the inbox of a major news outlet. It contained no subject line, no explanation, only a single message: "The truth is in the tapes." The IP address was traced to a public library computer in Los Angeles, but the sender was never identified. Was it a hoax, a threat, or a desperate attempt to unearth the secrets Hackman had taken to his grave? The question lingers, unanswered. The missing tapes, rumored to contain damning evidence of secret deals, threats, and confessions from Hollywood's elite, have taken on a life of their own. Insiders speculate that if the tapes were ever released, they could decimate careers, topple studios, and force the Academy to confront a legacy built on corruption. A private investigator, hired by an anonymous source, claimed to have tracked a duplicate set of tapes to a storage unit in Nevada, but before he could secure them, the unit was cleared out by individuals posing as federal agents. Hackman's midnight confession, combined with the cryptic message about the tapes, has left a fracture in Hollywood's polished facade, a warning that truth, no matter how deeply buried, has a way of clawing its way to the surface. As the search for the missing tapes continues, we are left with shadows, unanswered questions, and the haunting words of a man who saw too much and spoke too late.